Hand in hand with the echo command goes the read command. If echo can be said to be the command that prints output out to the screen, the read command is the command that reads input in from the keyboard. Just like echo, read is also a shell built-in. It reads exactly one line of inputted text, usually from the keyboard, but to be more precise, from standard input, and it stores any information that it reads in shell variables. Now again, we haven't exactly covered shell variables yet, so we're going to get a little sneak peek of what they're like. The principal use of read is to receive the answers to questions and prompts that are issued by the script. Those questions and prompts would typically be issued using the echo command. So how it works is we typically echo some question out, like what is your name, and then read the answer using the read command and store it in a shell variable. Let's have a look at an example of that. If you issued the command at the shell prompt read name, then what would happen next is the shell would appear to just sit there waiting. The cursor would be flashing at the beginning of the next line. But as soon as you type something, say your name, and then press enter, you would get your dollar prompt back again. You will get no output on the screen, no message indicating that anything has actually happened. The only thing you'll see on the screen is what you have actually typed. But the clever part is that you now have a variable called name, and that variable contains the value that you typed in this case Mark Virtue. If you ever want to see the contents of that variable displayed on the screen again, you can see them by typing in echo and then a $sign and then name, which of course goes back to our echo command. Notice that you have to use a $sign if you ever want to extract the contents of a variable. We'll cover that in more detail later, just memorize it for now. So let's look at an example of that. I might type in read. Now I press enter and the cursor just sits there flashing at the beginning of the next line. It's actually waiting for me to type something in. Now in this case I'll be typing in a phone number, but typically there's no way that the user is going to know what they're supposed to type in unless you precede the read command with an echo command describing exactly what you're looking for. Anyway, we didn't get that in this case because I'm just doing the read command, but I'll tie them together in a moment. And in the meantime, I'll just type in a phone number, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. That'll do. And then I get my dollar prompt back. Now, I can now proceed to do any command that I want, ls or pwd, and at any time in the future I can determine what is in the variable called phone by saying echo $phone, and it will give me the contents on the screen of what is stored in the variable called phone. So let's now have a look at that in the context of a script. We'll open up my script again, and right down at the end of the line I will say echo please enter your name, and then I will read name, and then I will echo out a nice little friendly greeting, something like, if I could spell it properly, hello name, how are you? And let's save that and quit and run it. My script, and it gives all the same information as before, but now it's paused at the end saying please enter your name. So I can type in my name and it says hello Mark Virtue, how are you? The interesting part of that last example is the very last line, the fact that you can actually combine the contents of a variable with normal text. In other words, here is the contents of a variable, this will be replaced with the value Mark Virtue, and then that can be combined with just regular text like hello, how are you? That's a nice little feature of the echo command. Moving on, a little bit more about the read command. It's actually possible to break the line of input that was typed in by the user across several variables as follows. You could possibly do it as read first name, surname, and then the mark would go into first name and the virtue would go into surname. So you can actually read the contents of two variables simultaneously. What happens is the shell breaks up the line that you type in into little, what we might call, chunks, and each chunk is separated by spaces and or tabs. Let's have a brief look at that as a working example. I might say read number, street, and type. This might be some way that I could read in the user's address, and I could type in 12 Smith Road, and then I find out that if I want to have a look at the contents of number, it's 12. If I want to look at the contents of street, it's Smith, and of course you can see what's coming next. If I want to see what's in type, it's road. So I've actually created, out of thin air, 3 new variables called number, street, and type, and filled them in with values. And some final points about that. If the user happened to type in more words than there are variables to put them in, then the extra words are added to the last variable. Now we've actually already seen that. The very first example we saw was where we asked for a single variable called name, and I actually typed in mark virtue. In other words, I typed in 2 words in response to one variable request, and both names, or both words if you like, were put into the single same variable. Let's have a look at the street example again, just to see if we didn't specify enough variables. If I typed in read number, street, and then typed in 12 Smith Road, then the contents of number are the same, and the contents of street are Smith Road. Okay, that's fairly self-explanatory, I'm guessing. And finally, if not enough words are provided, then the extra variables that didn't get filled just simply contain nothing. Let's have a look at that. If I type in read number, street, and then type, and all I type in response to that is 12, then I look into number and it contains 12, and I look into street and it is a mistake. I made a little mistake there. I didn't do it deliberately, but it is a good point that I can show you. If you don't put the $sign in there, as you can see I've omitted the $sign, then you simply end up echoing out the word street. Notice the difference between typing in echo street and echo $street is as follows. But anyway, back to the main point of this argument. We only specified 12, so street and type wouldn't have gotten filled in. So the same thing should have happened with type. It should be blank, and it is. So street and type were blank, but number actually got filled in with 12. Now, one final thing before we move on to the next module. This is actually a little feature of the echo command and has nothing really to do with read, but it's handy, so I thought I'd show it to you now. Notice how here the cursor is flashing on the next line. Wouldn't it be nice if the cursor was flashing on the end of the previous line? Let's have a look at how to do that. So if I just type in Mark, hello Mark, how are you, thank you very much, and now I'll actually modify this echo command here such that it will not jump on to the next line when the next command is executed, in other words when the read is executed. So what I do is I simply add a little -n there, and then when I run my script it says please enter your name, and now look where the cursor is flashing. It's flashing right at the end of the line, so I can just type in Mark and then of course as we are before. Now, in the interests of completeness, I'll show you how to get a little space immediately after the colon there. So the cursor is not flashing immediately after the colon, there's actually a space. So let's have a look at that. Now, here's the clever trick. If you want to have extra spaces added, either at the beginning of the line, at the end of the line, or anywhere in the middle of the line, then you have to add, the whole thing has to be inside double quotes, like so. So let's have a look at that again, and my script, and now we've got a space after the colon. Now, not all versions of Echo actually support that -n option, so I'll show you what to do if you encounter a version of Echo that does not support the -n option, and you'll know if it doesn't because the little -n will simply get echoed out to the screen. So I'll get rid of that -n. There is actually another option, and that is you can put a \c right on the end of the line as the very last character, but inside the double quotes. So let's see how that looks. Save and quit, and my script, and of course that works exactly the same way. So there we go. Okay, well that pretty much concludes the modules on Echo and Read. Let's move on.